I used to wonder what it would feel like to walk into a room and make everyone stop. Not because I'd spilled coffee down my shirt or tripped over my own feet, but because I was the kind of girl who made people stare, in awe, not amusement. The kind of girl whose name they remembered. Whose voice they didn't talk over. I wasn't that girl in college. I was the opposite. Maya Carter, short, fat, forgettable. Acne-scarred skin, frizzy hair I couldn't tame, and a wardrobe that screamed clearance bin. I was the girl people pitted in group chats but never included in group photos. My best friend, Jules, kept me around the way some people keep an emergency charger, useful, loyal, easy to ignore. She introduced me to people as my sweet little bean, which sounded cute until I realized she said the same thing about her cat. I wasn't bullied in the dramatic way movies show you. It was subtle. Sharp. The way Lucas Sanders once complimented my bravery for wearing a tank top. Or how Ava Monroe loudly asked during our senior thesis defense if I was pregnant, while laughing, of course. Tristan Blake, the golden boy everyone drooled over, didn't even know I existed. At graduation, I smiled for the camera, shook hands, and vanished. No goodbye post. No party. Just gone. They thought I'd run off in embarrassment, maybe move to another country to find myself. Let them believe it. The truth was uglier, and stronger. I'd had enough. Enough of being the afterthought, the joke, the background character in my own life. I needed to disappear not because I was ashamed, but because I was done surviving. I wanted to become someone unrecognizable. Someone they couldn't ignore if they tried. So I left. For 2 years. Deleted every account. Burned every photo. Legally changed my name. Got help, real help. Therapy, a nutritionist, physical rehab. I worked through binge eating and body dysmorphia, learned what hunger actually felt like, what pain actually meant. I grew taller, lost weight, got my jaw fixed, changed my voice. I dyed my hair blonde, whitened my teeth, changed my skin routine, my walk, my stare. Maya Carter died quietly in a studio apartment. And Elle Winters took her place. When I finally came back, it wasn't because I missed anyone. It was because I saw the invite. An alumni gala thrown by none other than Ava Monroe herself, now a beauty entrepreneur with a failing skincare line and 180K TikTok followers. She invited everyone from our graduating class. Everyone who had ever laughed at me. I RSVP'd last minute, under my new name. Elle Winters. I walked into that ballroom in a white silk dress and strappy heels, laid on purpose, knowing the lighting would hit just right. Every head turned. Not one of them recognized me. Not even Jules, who ran up and hugged me with wide, fake eyes. "Oh my God," she gasped. "You're stunning. Who are you with?" "Elle," I said, smiling softly. "Elle Winters." "Winters, have we met before?" "Maybe," I shrugged. "I've just got one of those faces." I drifted through the room like perfume, ungraspable, unforgettable. And then I saw him. Lucas Sanders. Taller than I remembered. Same smug grin, same casually expensive clothes. His drink paused halfway to his lips when our eyes met. He didn't blink. Didn't breathe. And then he walked over. "Hey," he said, lowering his voice. "I'm Lucas." He held out his hand like it meant something. Like he'd never laughed at me. Like he didn't once say I'd be cute if I lost 100 pounds. I took his hand. Smiled. "Elle. Pleasure." I wasn't here to be polite. I wasn't here to forgive. I was here to make sure the world that once broke me never saw it coming. Lucas Sanders couldn't stop looking at me, and that alone should have made me sick. But instead, it made something in me tighten, like a knot pulling on every version of myself he'd ever humiliated. He didn't recognize me, and that made it all the better. He leaned in a little closer, giving me that familiar, practiced grin he probably used on influencers and Instagram models, The same one I'd once watched from across the quad while pretending I didn't care. "So, Elle," he said, "what do you do?" I smiled, tilting my head just enough to let the chandelier light catch my cheekbone. "Consulting. Branding. Startups. It's a little complicated." "Complicated is hot," he said without blinking. I nearly laughed. He used to call me complicated in the worst way, when I tried to sit with his group and he whispered that I killed the vibe. Now here he was, trying to impress me like I was a trophy he hadn't already smashed. Jules hovered nearby, watching our conversation like a hawk circling something that smelled too familiar. "Elle," she interrupted, fake laughing, her nails clicking on her wine glass. "You seriously look so familiar. Like, creepy familiar." "Maybe we went to the same school," I said, turning to her. "Did you go to Westbridge?" Yeah," she said, confused. "Wait, you went to Westbridge?" "Only for 4 years," I said smoothly. "But I mostly kept to myself." That was the first twist of the knife. I could see it in her eyes, the discomfort, the itch of memory she couldn't place. "Oh," she said slowly, her smile faltering. "I feel like, maybe I knew you?" "Maybe," I replied. "Or maybe you just think you did." I slipped away before either of them could say anything else. I wasn't going to waste this moment. They were unraveling already, and I hadn't even started. I walked to the bar, ordered something sharp and bitter, and took it to the balcony where I could breathe. The city looked exactly the same. I didn't. "You're good at that," a voice said behind me. I turned. It was Ava Monroe. Of course it was. "Good at what?" "Slipping in," she said, swirling her champagne. "People like me notice people like you." "People like you?" "Threats," she said, lips curled. "You look like a threat." "Maybe I am." "You're not on the list," she said, sipping casually. "I had everyone researched before tonight." "You're new." I smiled. "Or you missed something." "Impossible." "Then maybe you just didn't look hard enough." She stared at me for a long second, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. She was smarter than the others. Meaner too. I didn't expect her to recognize me, but I did expect her to dig. That was fine. Let her. The real fun hadn't started yet. Later, back inside, Lucas found me again. "There's this after party," he said, stepping in close. "Private rooftop. Real drinks. You in? Are you inviting everyone or just me?" "Just you." I stared at him. He had no idea. And that was the best part. "Sure," I said, handing him my phone. "Put in your number." He did. I walked away without saving it. I wasn't going to the party. I had better plans. My name was trending now, Elle Winters, mysterious beauty at the center of Westbridge's viral alumni gala. I had made sure of it. And in 48 hours, when I launched my brand, every single person in this room was going to remember me. Even if they didn't realize they already had. I woke up the next morning with the sunlight leaking through the blinds of my downtown condo and 1,000 notifications lighting up my phone. As planned. Photos from last night were circulating all over social media. "Who is Elle Winters?" was trending on Twitter. My white dress was already being recreated by a dozen fashion micro-influencers. Ava's own team had tagged me in a story calling me a mystery stunner. She'd pretend it was flattering, but I knew her well enough to know she was seething. Good. I poured myself coffee and sat in front of my laptop, scrolling through posts as if I weren't the one who had orchestrated all of it. My marketing team, 2 genius 20-somethings who thought I was some icy investor backing their dreams, had quietly pushed out teaser videos for our upcoming app launch during peak reunion hours. Want skin like Elle? She's not just pretty. She's powerful. Who is she? Find out Monday. Everything was on schedule. What none of them knew What even my own team didn't know was that I'd designed this company from the inside out to be the exact opposite of everything Westbridge made me feel. It was built to make invisible girls seen. To make power look like choice, not punishment. And when the app launched, it would be clear that Elle Winters wasn't just a pretty face in a viral photo, she was a mogul in the making. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A text popped up immediately after. Hey, it's Lucas. From last night. I know that rooftop party was a bust, but I was hoping to actually see you again. I can pick you up. Or we can keep it low-key. Just say the word. I stared at the message. Lucas Sanders. The same guy who once asked if I ate out of boredom or depression. He'd said it in front of half the class, and I'd laughed too loudly to cover the silence that followed. Now he was texting me like he'd discovered gold. I didn't reply. I needed time. Not for feelings, those were long dead, but for the setup. Lucas wasn't the main event. He was just the bait. The real twist came when Jules messaged me next. Elle. Can we talk? I think I know who you are. I blinked. That wasn't part of the plan. She wasn't supposed to figure it out this fast. And yet, the next message sealed it. Maya? My stomach twisted. I hadn't heard that name out loud in 2 years. She followed up. If it's you, please. I didn't know what they were doing to you back then. I miss you. I never meant to hurt you. That was a lie. She meant every snide comment. Every exclusion. Every backhanded compliment. But part of me, small, soft, unwanted, still remembered watching movies with her on rainy days and crying on her floor after my first panic attack. I didn't respond. I powered off my phone. I needed to clear my head. So I went out. Walked through the city with my face bare, hair tied up, sunglasses low. No one recognized me. I loved it. But I didn't expect to run into him. The one person I hadn't planned for. Tristan Blake. My old college crush. The one who never looked my way. He was taller than I remembered, scruffier, darker around the eyes. He almost bumped into me at the coffee shop and froze. Sorry, he said, then looked again. Wait, do I know you? Something about the way he said it made my pulse spike. I should have lied. Should have brushed it off. But I didn't. Maybe you do, I said softly. He studied me. And for the first time in my life, Tristan Blake really looked at me. What's your name? I paused. Elle, I said. Elle Winters. He nodded slowly, but there was something behind his eyes. Something searching. I turned to go, but he called after me. You're not just some influencer, are you? I smiled without turning around. Depends who's asking. He laughed, and I walked out before he could follow. I'd come back to burn bridges, but now, I wasn't sure which ones I still wanted standing. I didn't expect to see Tristan again so soon. I definitely didn't expect him to show up at the private pre-launch mixer I was hosting for investors and early partners the next evening. He walked in looking like a man who had something to prove, wearing a slate gray suit and a hesitant smile. I watched from across the rooftop as he scanned the crowd, and then his eyes landed on me. I should have slipped away. Disappeared into the cluster of fashion editors and tech founders who'd come to sip free champagne and take selfies. But something about the way he looked at me, like he'd already begun unraveling the layers, made my feet stay rooted to the floor. Elle, he said, approaching slowly. You clean up even better than you did yesterday. And you, I said, raising an eyebrow, seem very determined to keep running into me. He smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. Full disclosure, I asked Jules. My stomach twisted. You asked Jules about me? She was vague, he said, stepping closer. Said you reminded her of someone. Then she warned me not to get too close. That was when I got really curious. Of course she did. That was Jules. Friendly concern laced with ownership, like I was still her sidekick and she had a say in what happened to me. Well, curiosity's dangerous, I said. So is not knowing who someone really is, he replied, his tone dropping. We stood there, quiet for a moment, the lights of the city flickering below us. So who are you, Elle? He asked finally. Besides beautiful, obviously. I'm the girl who used to wait in line at the same coffee shop as you for 2 years, I said. You never looked up once. He blinked. Wait, you, I held up a hand. I'm not telling you who I was. That girl's dead. And honestly, I'm not sure I want her to come back. That's not how it works, he said gently. We don't just bury who we were. We carry them. For a second, I hated him for saying that. For being right. For making me remember who I used to be under the mask of Elle Winters. Why are you here, Tristan? I asked. Because something tells me your story is a lot more interesting than anything happening at that bar, he said, glancing over his shoulder. And because I think I owe that girl a real conversation, whenever you're ready to let her speak. I didn't know what to say. So I didn't say anything at all. I turned away and walked back inside, my heart pounding louder than the rooftop music. This wasn't part of the plan. He wasn't supposed to show up, let alone remember. Let alone care. But before I could find my footing again, Lucas cornered me near the champagne tower. You dodged me, he said, playful but firm. Was it something I said? Only about 5 years' worth, I muttered. Huh? I smiled. Nothing. Just thinking. Well, think less. Let me take you to dinner. Tomorrow night. Tempting, I said, taking a sip. But I'm really busy ruining people's lives this week. He laughed. He thought I was joking. I wasn't. And then came the real surprise. Ava. She stepped forward, flanked by 2 men in suits and a phone in hand. Elle Winters, she said. Or should I say? Maya Carter? The music didn't stop, but in my head, everything did. Eyes turned. My spine locked. Wow, she added, smirking. You really thought you could come back here and fool all of us? She raised her phone and showed the screen to the nearest guest. Fresh out of the Westbridge yearbook. Gasps rippled. I stood frozen. My mask cracked. But only for a second. I smiled, slow and sharp. Oh, Ava, I said, stepping toward her. You have no idea what you've just started. Because if she wanted a war, I'd give her one. The news spread faster than I could blink. By the time I got home, my inbox was flooded with subject lines like Elle Winters exposed, and is this the viral glow-up girl from Westbridge? My marketing team was panicking, unsure whether to lean into the story or deny it entirely. But I wasn't panicking. No, I was furious. Not because Ava had figured it out. I expected her to, eventually. What I didn't expect was for her to weaponize it so publicly, so viciously, at my own event. I should have seen it coming. Ava Monroe didn't like losing the spotlight. And last night, I had eclipsed her effortlessly. This was her retaliation. But if she thought revealing Maya Carter would break me. She had clearly forgotten who Maya Carter really was. I brewed a strong cup of coffee, pulled up my laptop, and started planning. The app was launching in 3 days. I could either bury the story, pretend nothing happened, or I could own it. Control the narrative. Turn my greatest humiliation into the engine of my empire. By sunrise, I had rewritten our entire campaign. Instead of denying the connection to Maya, we'd use it. Before Elle would be a series of anonymous clips. A girl in oversized clothes, a voice that stuttered, shaky hands on a laptop. The final reveal would be me, standing in a boardroom, sleek and unrecognizable, smiling at the camera. The caption? Glow-ups are fun. Power-ups are better. I hit send. My team was stunned, but impressed. They knew better than to question it. I'd built the company from scratch. If I said we pivoted, we pivoted. Still, the day dragged. My name was everywhere, and not all of it was kind. People were arguing online whether my transformation was real, if it was unfair to my bullies, if I was promoting some toxic ideal. Others called me iconic. A feminist revenge fantasy. A mastermind. Jules hadn't reached out since Ava's reveal, but that didn't surprise me. She'd always been the kind to stand back when things got hard. The real shock was Tristan. He called. I didn't pick up. He texted. I saw the video. I read the threads. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't answer. What would I even say? That I didn't trust him to see me and not look away again? That I didn't want his pity, or worse, his approval? Then, another message. I remember now. You used to leave protein bars in the library for people who skipped meals. You used to apologize every time someone bumped into you. I was an idiot not to see you. That almost made me cry. Almost. But I didn't have time. I had a press conference to attend. One I had called myself. I walked into that hall like it was a battlefield, white suit, red lip, hair slicked back. The cameras flashed. The room went quiet. I took the mic. Yes, I said, my name was Maya Carter. And I used to be invisible. I paused. But what you see now? This, everything I built, wasn't out of shame. It was out of survival. I told my story. Not all the gory details, but enough. Enough for every girl who'd ever been mocked in silence to feel seen. Enough for Ava Monroe, watching from her gilded office, to choke on her champagne. I ended with one line. Don't underestimate the girl you ignored. She might just become the woman who owns the room you walk into. The applause was immediate. Deafening. By the time I left the stage, my phone was blowing up again. Lucas. Ava. Jules. All irrelevant. Except for one new message. From Tristan. I'm not calling to ask who you were anymore. I'm calling because I'd like to know who you are, now. And for the first time since I came back, I didn't feel like I had anything to hide. I met Tristan for coffee the next morning, not because I was ready to trust him, but because something in me needed to look him in the eye and see if the kindness I remembered as Maya was real or just something I made up to survive. He was already waiting when I arrived, a paper cup in his hand and a notebook open on the table. He looked up, and for once, didn't stare like everyone else had since my reveal. He smiled. Not at Elle Winters, not at the viral success story, but like someone who had been waiting to meet the person underneath. You look tired, he said. I laughed softly. That's one way to say I've had a week. He pushed the cup toward me. Almond milk, 2 pumps vanilla. I remembered. I took it without a word. It was a detail so small, and yet it hit harder than most apologies. So, he said. Do we talk about the elephant in the room? Which one? I asked. The fact that I faked my identity for 2 years, or that one of our classmates tried to publicly humiliate me on launch week. Both, he said. But only if you want to. I stared at him. Why are you really here, Tristan? Because I was part of the problem, he said simply. Even if I never called you names. Even if I never laughed out loud. I still watched it happen. I still chose not to see you. I looked down at my coffee. People like you didn't owe me anything back then. That's the problem, he said. I should have owed you something. Like basic decency. And maybe, a second chance now, if you'll let me. I didn't answer. Not yet. My guard was still up, steel reinforced from years of silence and being invisible. But something cracked in that moment. Something warm. Something I thought I'd buried with Maya. Later that day, I was walking out of a strategy meeting when Ava's assistant intercepted me with a sealed envelope. No message. Just a single sheet of paper inside, handwritten. You win. But you'll never belong. I didn't flinch. I didn't need to. I simply wrote back in lipstick on the back of the note, I don't belong. I own. And gave it right back. Ava was unraveling. Her skincare brand had tanked overnight after someone anonymously leaked her supplier contracts, which revealed animal testing and illegal additives. I didn't leak it, but I didn't stop it either. Karma had an intern now, and she wore heels. Lucas was still texting. Still sending cringy memes and offers to explain crypto over dinner. I finally replied, I don't date former bullies. Especially ones who peek in DMs. He left me on read. The next twist came when Jules showed up. Not a text. Not a call. In person. At my office. She waited an hour in the lobby, wearing a blazer 3 sizes too tight and nerves stitched into her smile. Can I talk to you? She asked, voice softer than I remembered. Why? Because I was your best friend once. And I forgot what that meant. You didn't forget, I said. You just stopped caring. She winced. You were easy to use. That's the truth. You were smart, kind, dependable. And I took advantage of it. I stood there, arms crossed. And now? Now I'm miserable, she admitted. Everyone talks about you. My parents compare me to you. I scroll through your photos every night wondering how I didn't see what you'd become. Because you never saw me to begin with. She nodded. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't say I forgave her. But I didn't throw her out either. Some things didn't deserve closure. Just distance. That night, Tristan messaged me again. Dinner. Just us. No pressure. I just want to know the woman you became. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing, one dinner. If you're late, I disappear. He sent a thumbs up. I sent the address. This wasn't about going back. It was about deciding who deserved to walk forward beside me. And for once, I was the one making the rules. Dinner with Tristan wasn't what I expected. It wasn't candlelit or fancy. He took me to this small rooftop garden cafe tucked between high-rises, a place with fairy lights and mismatched chairs, the kind of place Maya would have loved but Elle had forgotten existed. We sat across from each other, and for a while, didn't talk. Not because it was awkward, because it wasn't. It was comfortable, in a terrifying way. I thought you'd pick some high-end fusion restaurant, I said, sipping my drink. Something with dry ice and overpriced oysters. He smirked. You've changed. But I figured part of you still liked grilled cheese and tomato soup. I blinked. He wasn't wrong. I used to eat that combo at the student cafe during finals, crying into the soup some days. You remembered that? I remember a lot now, he said. Like how you always loaned out your notes. How you helped the library tech who stuttered so badly he couldn't speak to anyone else. How you dressed like you were apologizing for existing. I swallowed hard. And now? Now you dress like you own the world. Which, to be fair, you kind of do. The food came and we ate in silence for a moment. I caught him watching me between bites, like he still couldn't quite believe this was real. Why didn't you ever talk to me back then? I asked suddenly. In college? He exhaled. Because I was stupid. Because I was afraid of what the guys would say if I looked twice at the fat girl who always sat alone. Because I told myself I was better than the bullies when I was really just quieter than them. So you saw me? Every single day, he said. And I hated myself for not having the guts to speak to you. And then when I saw you at the reunion, I thought, maybe I get another chance. Not because you're beautiful now, but because I see who you are and I don't want to waste that again. I looked at him for a long time, trying to decide if I believed him. He seemed nervous, but not rehearsed. You know, I said, leaning back, if this is some long con for exposure or revenge, I'll find out. He chuckled. I'm not that clever. Good. I've had enough of clever men. We finished dinner, and he walked me to my car. When I turned to say goodbye, he hesitated. What? I asked. Can I kiss you? I paused. No, he looked surprised. Not yet, I clarified. You'll have to earn that. He smiled and nodded. Fair enough. As I drove home, I didn't feel like a girl seeking revenge. I felt like a woman reclaiming her story. But of course, peace never lasted long. The next morning, my assistant burst into my office, wide-eyed. You need to see this. She held up a tablet. A video was going viral. Ava Monroe. Crying on camera. Talking about being bullied by a former friend who used to be someone else. She was playing the victim. Weaponizing my past to paint herself as the target. She's accusing you of orchestrating a smear campaign, my assistant said. Says she's stepping away from social media because of harassment. I watched the clip. Ava's tears were fake, but effective. The comments were a war zone, some calling her out, others accusing me of being vindictive and fake. I sat back. This wasn't over. And if Ava wanted another round, then so be it. She wanted to play the wounded darling. But I had one thing she never would. The truth. And I was about to drop it, brick by brutal brick. I knew I had to move fast. The longer Ava's pity parade ran unchecked, the more control she gained over the narrative. She was clever like that, always the first to cry in public, always the first to claim she was the real victim. But what she didn't have was a file of receipts going back years. I did. Videos. Emails. Screenshots of the burn book she and Jules once ran anonymously online, targeting every girl who dared to exist outside their mold. Even Maya Carter had her own chapter, an especially cruel one. I hadn't intended to use it. Not originally. I wanted to build my future, not burn theirs. But now that Ava had gone public and twisted the story? She gave me no choice. I sent the file to one reporter. Just one. An investigative journalist I trusted, one who had interviewed me weeks ago and called me the rising phoenix of tech. He released the story the next morning. Golden Girl Gone Rotten, Ava Monroe's past resurfaces. It hit like a tidal wave. The article didn't just expose her cruelty, it proved it. The burner accounts traced back to her dorm Wi-Fi. The photos. The leaked chats. Her signature sign-offs. Hugs and kisses, The public turned in seconds. Influencers unfollowed. Brands distanced themselves. Her skincare company issued a statement. She tried to spin it. Said she was young and regretful. Blamed Jules. Blamed me. But this time, no one was listening. Because the story wasn't just about high school cruelty, it was about what we carry into adulthood, and how some people never stop hurting others to stay on top. Meanwhile, my campaign surged. The app downloads tripled. People were calling me brave, raw, unapologetic. Even those who hated me had to admit I was brilliant. But in the middle of all that noise, something unexpected happened. Jules emailed me. Not an apology. Not a threat. Just a letter. Maya, I read the article. You didn't lie. You didn't exaggerate. We were monsters. I was a coward. And you were always better than us. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to say thank you for surviving. For proving we were wrong. I didn't reply. I wasn't sure I ever would. Because forgiveness wasn't the goal. Justice was. That night, I met Tristan again. This time at my place. We sat on the couch, silence between us, watching the city lights flicker like static. "You really did it," he said. "You came back and changed everything." "No," I said. "I just changed me." He turned to me. "Do you feel better now?" I thought about it. Not better. Just freer. And is there room in that freedom for someone like me? I looked at him, really looked at him. Tristan wasn't perfect. He had once been silent when I needed a voice. But he'd changed too. And not for me, for himself. That mattered. "We can find out," I said. He leaned in slowly this time, giving me every chance to pull away. I didn't. The kiss was soft, not a grand fireworks moment, but real. And maybe that was better. I wasn't the girl who dreamed of being saved anymore. I was the woman who saved herself. And now, maybe, I was ready to let someone stand beside me. As we pulled apart, my phone buzzed. A news alert. Ava Monroe had deleted all her socials. Her brand had filed for bankruptcy. Her silence was deafening. But I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply closed the notification and rested my head against Tristan's shoulder. Revenge wasn't sweet. It was necessary. And now that it was done, maybe, just maybe, I could start living for something more. The days that followed were quieter, but not dull. The launch was a full-blown success. Downloads soared, press coverage didn't stop, and suddenly I was being invited to speak on panels, mentor startups, grace the cover of magazines. Everyone wanted to know the girl behind the story. But I wasn't a story. I was a woman who had rebuilt herself from ashes. And I had no intention of letting anyone turn me into a trend or a trauma icon. Tristan was steady through it all. Never overstepping, never acting like he deserved access just because of the past. Sometimes he'd show up at my office with lunch or coffee. Other times, he'd text just to say, "Hope today wasn't too heavy." He made space. And I was learning how to take it. One afternoon, I caught myself laughing, actually laughing, because he had said something ridiculous about people who use loudspeakers in public. And it hit me. I hadn't laughed like that since before I became Elle Winters. Since before the name change and the surgery and the silence. I was laughing like Maya. And somehow, it didn't feel like a betrayal anymore. It felt like remembering. Still, I wasn't foolish. The world loved a comeback, yes, but it also loved tearing one down. I stayed smart. I stayed alert. And then came the twist I never saw coming. A message from my mother. She had barely spoken to me since I left home. Never wrote. Never called. But now, she wanted to meet. At a small restaurant in the suburbs. No press. No excuses. Just her and me. I went. Against every instinct, I went. She looked the same, older, maybe, but still severe in her cardigan and heels. "You've changed," she said as I sat down. "So have you," I replied. "You left," she said after a long silence. "Without telling anyone." "You let people make me feel like a ghost," I said. "You never defended me." "I didn't know how," she admitted. "You were always different. I didn't know how to raise someone so soft in a world this hard." "So you let them break me?" Her eyes filled with tears. "And now look at you." "Maybe I should thank them." "Don't," I said sharply. "Don't ever thank my pain." We sat in silence again. And then she reached into her purse and handed me a photo, me, at 17, braces and all, asleep on the couch with a sketchpad in hand. "I kept this," she said. "You always wanted to build something. I just didn't understand what." I stared at it for a long time. Not because I missed that version of me. But because I knew, now, that she had existed. That she had mattered. "You can go now," I said gently. "I'm not angry. I just don't think I have space for you right now." She nodded. Didn't argue. And for once, that was enough. Back at home, I told Tristan about it. Closure is weird, I said. Sometimes it looks like forgiveness. Sometimes it just looks like a quiet goodbye. Either way, he said, it sounds like healing. Maybe, I said. Or maybe it's just another beginning. He leaned in. Then let's not waste it. And for the first time in years, I let someone hold me, not because I needed saving, but because I'd already saved myself. The next few months felt like the first real breath after years underwater. The app expanded internationally. I hired new staff, mentored 3 young founders, and partnered with a nonprofit to fund education for girls who had experienced bullying and harassment. Every day, I built a world I wished I'd grown up in. A world where Maya Carter would have been safe. Where Elle Winters didn't have to exist just to be heard. I didn't erase either name. They both belonged to me now. One day, while I was preparing a speech for a tech summit in Singapore, a package arrived at the office with no sender listed. Inside was a small notebook, frayed, worn, familiar. It was my old journal from college. The one I thought I'd thrown away the night I decided to disappear. A note was tucked inside. You dropped this in the library years ago. I never read it. But I always meant to give it back. No signature. But I didn't need one. The handwriting was shaky but unmistakable. It was Max, the library tech with the stutter I'd helped once, the one Ava had laughed at when she thought no one was looking. I never saw Max again after graduation. But I guess he saw me. I guess someone always did. I clutched the journal for a long time, then placed it on my shelf next to a framed article about our app's billion-dollar valuation. There were many versions of me now, each one a stepping stone, not a secret. That night, I hosted a quiet dinner on our rooftop. My team, Tristan, a few friends I'd made the last 2 years. And for once, I wasn't watching my every word. I wasn't performing. I laughed too loud. I drank too much wine. And when the fairy lights blinked over our heads and the city glowed around us, I stood up and tapped my glass. To Maya, I said. She wasn't a phase. She was the foundation. They clinked their glasses with mine. Tristan reached for my hand under the table. He squeezed. Later, when everyone left and it was just us, I stood barefoot on the balcony, letting the wind tangle my hair. You know, Tristan said, wrapping his arms around me, I still see her. In your smile. In the way you fight for people. I think she'd be proud of you. She is, I whispered. And so am I. I turned to him. You stayed. Of course I did. Even after knowing everything. Especially after knowing everything. I kissed him. This time, not as a maybe or a test or a memory. This time as the woman I'd chosen to become. The world would keep turning. There would always be critics, whispers, challenges. But I had survived the worst of them. And I'd built something no bully could tear down. Myself. Reborn, remade, but still me. Always me. The girl they laughed at was gone. The woman they feared had arrived. And she wasn't going anywhere.